Welcome back to Thimbleberry U. I am John Jagay, joined again by Amy Wallace from Thimbleberry Financial. Amy, always great to be with you.
Jag, I always enjoy talking to you.
When you told me what we're going to talk about today, it kind of got my antennae up a little bit. Saving more by shrinking your monthly income. I know, Amy, you're an expert on money, but this sounds a little strange to me. Can you explain the idea of saving more by shrinking your monthly income?
You know, I hate to say it, it's actually a trick. Today's topic is all about behavior.
Okay.
It's about tricking ourselves to think we have less money than we actually do on a monthly basis.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So when we think we have less than we do and we can believe that and act accordingly, we often make different choices. And the side effect of those choices is more money being saved.
Okay, I like this. So shrinking is really kind of a frame of mind. And my wife is just going to love this. And I feel like I should have her come into the room as we're recording this because I'm not sure I'm going to like this as much. How do you shrink how much money you have on a monthly basis?
So, Jag, let me ask you a question. I'm going to give you two scenarios. And what I want to know is, how does your spending change as a result of either one of these scenarios?
Okay.
One caveat, the actual income you have coming in each month has not changed in these scenarios. So in scenario A, $10,000 hits your checking account each month. And that checking account is the main account you spend from. In scenario B, $2,000 hits your checking account each month. And that checking account is the main account you spend from.
Oh, obviously, I'm going to spend less money in that second scenario where I've only got $2,000 coming in, and I'm opening my app and I'm looking at my bank account and I'm saying, oh, that number's not as big. Maybe I don't need to go get takeout tonight. Maybe I should eat something in the house. Maybe I don't need to go get that coffee on my way out to visit that client. I see where you're going here.
Absolutely. It's all about behavior and choices. So what we need to do is structure accounts differently so that you're automating what happens out of certain accounts and not needing to pay attention to them the way you do out of the checking account you actually are spending from on a daily basis.
So I think I see where you're going here. So the idea would be if I'm making that same $10,000 every month, but some of it is getting sent to a different account that's savings or escrow for something else. I'm not looking at that money. I don't see it, so I don't have that temptation to spend it. Am I on the right track here?
You are on the right track, but there are tricks in setting this up.
Okay.
Let's say, Jag, you've got this checking account. And with this checking account, you know, this is almost going to be more like a savings account, if you will, and we'll call it account A.
Okay.
In this account, you're going to want to have bill pay. Okay, pretty standard these days. And so money comes into account A. And then really you're going to divide your expenses into at least 3 categories. Category 1 is going to be the things that I'm going to call loosely fixed expenses. And why I'm going to call it loosely fixed expenses is, you know, our water bill isn't the same each month.
Sure.
But it's close. Our utilities aren't exactly the same, but they're in a certain range, right? So we have those just set up to be automatically paid, or they're expenses we just have set up to be paid via bill pay.
Okay, so the gas bill, the electric bill, a lot of utility stuff, maybe it's cable, internet, the monthly stuff that you know is, with a little bit of wiggle room, pretty much fixed every month.
Exactly. So that's the first group of expenses. And you want to categorize these expenses really before you ever even start to worry about what the income is.
Okay.
The second group of expenses are what I'm going to call non-monthly expenses. A lot of times they are your more discretionary expenses. So often I see them being travel, gifts, home repairs, especially remodeling.
You're preaching to the choir this morning because literally in the last couple hours before we've recorded, we have a plumbing issue here in the house and we have had to call a plumber. So fortunately, the plumber can't get here for a day or so. So we are cringing at what that might cost, but that would certainly be a non-monthly expense and something I'm assuming that would come out of this bucket, so to speak.
Absolutely. And if you look back over time, you can figure out, oh, these types of things pop up periodically. And so over the course of a year, we spend X amount on this, and you can set that money aside monthly.
So you say, okay, let me look back at 2020 is a bad example with the pandemic, but say 2019 or 2018 and say, okay, if we add everything up from the year, which is now so much easier to do because we can download bank statements and most of it's all digital anyway, you say, okay, I spent $15,000 on all this stuff over the year. So now you can say, okay, that's what, $1,200 something a month. So average out what it's going to be, take that out every month, and you have an idea of where you're going to be. I like that.
Absolutely. Now, Jag, in this bucket, in this category, I should say, number 2, savings should also be included. Okay. Now, that's not savings to your retirement plan at work, et cetera, because that clearly got pulled out before you were paid. But savings to a brokerage account or savings to an IRA or Roth IRA, kids' education, for example, that should all be accounted for in this category.
Would this be emergency fund or is that something different?
Could also be emergency fund. Any kind of savings that wasn't already pulled out of your paycheck.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so that's category 2. And then category 3 is what I'm going to call the discretionary fixed expenses and fund money.
Okay.
And Jag, my husband and I do this. So I'm not talking about anything that I don't do myself. This third bucket is spending money. And for us, it's groceries, it's gas for the car, it's dining, it's entertainment. It really, like I said, it's the fun money. I called it discretionary fixed expenses because clearly we have to eat.
Yes.
So groceries are not, discretionary themselves, but what we buy as groceries is discretionary. And so there's wiggle room here on how much we budget or splurge.
I actually kind of like that you're making this number 3 and not number 2. I feel like we've talked about this on a previous episode of the podcast, Amy, that if you look at your discretionary income before what you're going to save, you'll spend a lot more. But if you take what you're putting away as a line item before the discretionary income, this kind of goes with the theme of the episode, that discretionary income is less and you don't forget to put savings. You don't say, oh, I bought this month or we went out for a really nice dinner this month, so I have less to put into savings. You're fixing that savings amount ahead of time and then looking to see what you have for discretionary income. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I'm glad. And I think different people look at it differently too, right? I love that works really well for you. But the next step of this is we have to add up 1, 2, and 3, those 3 categories and what their balances are. And are they less than the amount of money you have coming in each month? If they are, perfect. Leave it alone. If they are not, then you're going to have to go back through likely number 2 and number 3 and not number 1 because those are fixed expenses, though you may want to look at, oh, do I really want all that cable, right? I've got Netflix and I've got all these other things that I'm paying for.
Do I need to subscribe to 10 different video on-demand services every month? Yeah.
Exactly. So you want to look at them and you're going to have to make adjustments in order to make sure that they are lower than the amount of money you have coming in each month. Once you have that and you know, okay, yes, these numbers actually work, then you get to start actually structuring this.
Okay.
So in doing this, we've got account A that we talked about that is, this checking account really with bill pay features on it. So the bill pay features are where you set up the expenses in category 1. Okay. Or have those pulled automatically out of the checking account. Could go either way. Then the category 2 expenses actually are going to stay sitting in that bucket, in that account, really, account A, until you incur that expense. Okay. Now, the trick here is you need to have some savings, your cash reserve, some of it already in place to be able to, I like calling these buckets, I think in terms of buckets and umbrellas, as we've talked about previously, to make sure there's water in the bottom of this bucket.
Yes.
Right? So maybe that's $5,000. Maybe that's $10,000. I think it depends on each person what that number is. But set a solid number that hey, this bucket is never supposed to drop below that amount. And then you're just going to let all those number 2 expenses sit right there on top of it.
Okay.
So if you set your threshold at $10,000 and you now have $15,000 in it, you've saved $5,000 for whatever it is you said goes in that bucket.
Okay.
Your plumbing cost.
Yeah.
Right? You can pull $1,000 out when that plumber comes just for showing up.
Hope it's only $1,000. Okay.
And then you want to do, just like, I'm talking about buckets, you want to turn the spigot on.
Yes.
And that's going to pay out your number 3 category expenses. So how often that pays out is totally up to each person or each couple, how they're doing it. My husband and I have this payout on Fridays.
Okay.
Every Friday. Here's what I love about it being weekly is that when it's weekly, we often go out to dinner on Friday night.
Sure.
Well, if we don't have groceries in the house, then we're probably going to eat out on Saturday. And if we go much further than that, we're not going to have any other money in that account.
Right.
When the whole family's eating out and, we're doing weekend stuff. And so it's urgency for us to go and get our groceries ordered and get them picked up so that during the week, we don't blow up the whole budget by pulling money from somewhere else because we completely spend our number 3 money.
You and the listeners will not be surprised to hear this, given the money stuff I've talked about with my wife and I previously on the podcast. But I am of the mindset of, hey, we got no groceries in the house. Perfect excuse to go out to eat. No, we have to buy groceries so that we don't spend that kind of money. And she kind of keeps me in line with that. I'm like, you can make a sandwich in the house. You don't have to go out and get a burger. We have, we'll meal plan for the week. So she kind of keeps me in check from wanting to go get takeout every night. So this is a really good idea. I like this a lot, Amy.
What I love about it is you do get flexibility, right?
Yeah.
Where you spend, where anybody spends is about their values.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be the first to admit, there are times we are so busy that the thought of actually making meals just is cringeworthy. Mm-hmm. Especially when I've got one needing to go to swim practice, I've got another one needing to be picked up from school, and I need to be cooking meals all at the same time, right? While my husband's still working.
Yeah.
Some days it just isn't going to happen, but this gives you flexibility. Instead of watching every line item in the budget, you've got this pool of money that you can make a choice from.
So by committing everything to that first bucket, the fixed expenses, and then eventually the non-monthly expenses as well, you are now looking, to bring it full circle at the beginning of our episode, at a smaller amount of discretionary income every month, which theoretically would help you spend less. Do I have that right?
Absolutely, because when you are just thinking about what you have in bucket 3, in category 3, versus what's coming into bucket A, all of your monthly income, you are going to make different choices. This
is interesting to me, Amy, and the psychology, this is always fascinating to dive into with you. We had done a previous episode, you can go back and look wherever you're listening now, about windfalls, and how if you get a windfall, you might spend that money several times because you're thinking about that big ticket or that big number. Oh, I can spend it here. And then, I can also spend it here because you're always thinking about it. This is the exact opposite. It's a smaller amount of money, so you're spending a lot less. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd also take it one step further. Mm-hmm. We've got kids at school. They've got their activities. We just got done last week with conferences, and with a 5-year-old and needing to work, we had childcare expenses.
Sure.
And that pops up regularly throughout the year. So we also have a 4th category, if you will, that works much like our spending account. Has a little spigot over to it that we send money to each month. And that's for the kids' activities.
Okay.
It pays for soccer. It pays for swimming. It pays for nannies. It pays for summer camps. All those different school expenses that add up. So that way we just know, we call it our nanny account from, when the kids were littler. But it just helps us know, okay, that's just that piece all together. And we don't think about it.
I love it. As I said, Amy, I love talking to you every month or every couple of weeks because we really get into the psychology of what makes things tick and what makes people tick, as opposed to just, the dollars and cents of this all. If somebody really wants to take this approach to their financial future, to their retirement, to planning things out, what are the best ways to find you at Thimbleberry Financial?
Reach out to us via the phone at 503-610-6510 or online at thimbleberryfinancial.com.
Good stuff as always, Amy. We'll talk again soon.
Sounds great, Jag.
Registered representative. Securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisor representative, Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and Thimbleberry Financial are not affiliated.